What if the deadliest warrior to ever grace a movie screen wasn't a caped superhero, but a baby-faced farm kid who once stopped a German company single-handed? What if another beloved icon spent the last years of his life wondering whether the sand on his old film set carried the same silent poison that killed dozens of friends? Today, we're ripping away the studio gloss and diving into 12 legends whose real-world scars, secrets, and sheer nerve make modern green screen heroics look like Saturday morning cartoons. We'll meet miners who swung pickaxes before prop guns, sailors who fired 40 millimeters at dawn then smiled for the camera by lunch, and daredevils who saw no difference between action and incoming. Stick around. By the end, you might trust CGI a little less and respect these bruised titans a whole lot more. Audie Murphy was 5'5", 130 pounds, and the most decorated American soldier of World War II. He racked up 28 medals before he was old enough to drink, then swapped a steel helmet for a Stetson on film sets. Murphy slept with a pistol under his pillow and sometimes woke up crawling on hotel carpets, still hearing artillery in his head. Historians believe he kept brutally candid battlefield journals. Rumor says the family was approached by collectors in 2023 willing to drop 7 figures if those pages ever surface, but the estate clamped down tight. The mystery only adds to his legend. Proof that the toughest fights never leave the trenches. Lee Marvin traded surfboards for an M1 rifle at 19 and landed in Saipan's meat grinder as a Marine Scout sniper. Machine gun fire severed his sciatic nerve, leaving him in permanent agony, yet he still swaggered into Hollywood, Purple Heart tucked in a sock drawer. Interviewers loved his grin when he recalled the evening misunderstanding that devolved into fisticuffs with half of a lumberjack crew. Marvin limped on to the next day's shoot as if bruises were bonus makeup. But some iron wills were forged miles underground, not in foxholes. Charles Bronson spent childhood days 2 miles below Pennsylvania farmland, choking on coal dust so thick it stained his skin blue. That suffocating poverty birthed the granite-jawed vigilante we know from Death Wish. Decades later, when a Louisville superfan died in 2024 and left nearly $500,000 to Bronson, long-lost relatives turned the bequest into a court brawl worthy of one of his movies. Newspapers reveled in headlines like "Coal Miner's Kid Inches Fortune, Family Sees Red." Robert Mitchum perfected the 1,000-yard stare while hopping freight trains during the Great Depression. Arrested on a Georgia road in '33, he cracked jokes at the judge and found himself sweating on a chain gang. Mitchum later bragged on the Dick Cavett Show that he escaped by borrowing a log-cutting saw and slipping out under cover of darkness. Historians once dismissed the tale as barroom embroidery, until a 2024 true crime doc matched prison records to Mitchum's timeline and called the escape plausible, if insane. Swap boxcars for horsepower, and the danger only got faster. Steve McQueen signed contracts that forbade him from racing while filming. He got around that by entering under fake names, once finishing second at Sebring with a broken foot. In December 2024, his sweat-stained Heuer Monaco watch shattered estimates, hammering at $1.4 million as bidders whispered it still smelled of burnt rubber. Clint Eastwood wasn't satisfied just playing the man with no name. He almost became the man with no tombstone. In 1951, a Navy torpedo bomber he'd hitched a ride on ditched off California's coast. 21-year-old Clint and the pilot swam 3 freezing miles through shark-patrolled surf to shore, guided only by a flickering dome light. Aviation buffs still pore over Navy dispatches, and a 2025 dock crew sent underwater drones searching for the long-lost wreckage, hoping to settle how close Eastwood came to the deep blue grave. Across the lot, John Wayne was shrugging off cracked ribs from horse falls. Yet the deadliest set he ever strode onto was 1956's The Conqueror, filmed downwind of Nevada's nuclear tests. A 2023 documentary, Hollywood Fallout, reignited debate by revealing that nearly half the cast and crew developed cancer in the decades that followed, including Duke himself. If explosives and hypothermia weren't enough, some legends wielded fists like free weights. James Cagney grew up dodging brass knuckles on New York's Lower East Side. His mother forced tap lessons to keep him off the streets. The fancy footwork later made his on-screen punches land with balletic precision and real bruises. During The Public Enemy, he clipped a co-star so hard the poor guy saw Tweety birds. The director kept the take. Anthony Quinn spent his teen years prize fighting to help feed 11 siblings. By 30, he could bench press longshoremen and recite Yeats couplets between rounds. On the set of Zorba the Greek, locals watched slack-jawed as Quinn hoisted 100-pound beams in bare feet because the scene looked better without cranes. Cagney's choreography and Quinn's brute force prove that a well-thrown punch can be poetry, and sometimes poetry ends with a broken nose. Yet some wounds never bleed in public. They haunt reputations instead. Kirk Douglas survived a helicopter crash, a debilitating stroke, and the scorn of agents who said his chin was too much chin. But in 2021, Lana Wood's memoir reignited whispers that Douglas assaulted her sister Natalie in 1955, casting a long, uncomfortable shadow over his hero image. Charlton Heston endured heat stroke under 70-pound armor in Ben-Hur, then froze snorkeling in glacier melt for the warlord. Off-camera, he marched alongside Dr. King for civil rights, but later drew fire for fiery gun rights speeches, proving that moral steel can glare from either side of a podium. Heroes aren't plastic action figures. Sometimes they carry jagged contradictions no lens can smooth. Studios loved the legend and spent fortunes burying the hospital bills. Publicists once joked there were 3 certainties: death, taxes, and McQueen ignoring the stunt double memo. Insurance firms actually coined a McQueen clause, slapping surcharges on productions starring actors who refused body doubles. Internal memos leaked in late 2024 show executives labeling certain icons uninsurable, yet casting them anyway, because genuine danger sells out theaters faster than digital smoke. Lawyers quietly settled bar-fight hospital invoices, while gossip columnists got fed sanitized tales of playful hijinks. Meanwhile, power brokers kept radiation studies on the Conqueror set, buried for decades to shield careers and coffers, even as cast funerals piled up. The moral? Celluloid legends are built on real ER visits, lawyers' briefcases, and more non-disclosure agreements than a tech IPO. And one sailor-turned-Oscar winner, maybe Hollywood's toughest loose end of all. Ernest Borgnine looked like everyone's lovable uncle. But before Hollywood, he was a hardened gunner's mate, riding the destroyer escort USS Sylph through Mediterranean flak storms. After Pearl Harbor, the 24-year-old re-upped, manned 40mm cannons off Sicily, and went home with enough sea stories to last 6 decades. In 2024, the Naval History and Heritage Command finally digitized his gunnery logs, confirming rumors that Borgnine personally downed an enemy dive bomber during Operation Husky. Well into his 90s, Borgnine crushed handshake challenges on late-night TV. Asked if critics ever rattled him, he chuckled, "After firing at real planes, a 2-star review can't break your day." Borgnine's logs close the ledger: 12 Titans, 12 true tales, but they leave one burning. Real toughness isn't a perfectly timed punch sound effect or a 9-figure Marvel budget. It's Murphy waking up swinging at ghosts, Marvin limping into a gunfight scene on a shredded nerve, McQueen blasting through Sebring on a busted ankle, Eastwood kicking toward shore with lungs full of seawater, Bronson shrugging at courtroom vultures, Mitchum sawing through chains before sunrise, Cagney blending tap steps with uppercuts, Quinn carrying lumber like matchsticks, Douglas and Heston wrestling public demons, Wayne riding horses into radioactive dust, and Borgnine grinning behind flak-scarred gun barrels. So here's your call to action. Which modern star could trade places with any of these legends and still walk away? Drop a name in the comments, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Until next time, keep the reels spinning and your guard up. Because sometimes the toughest stories aren't scripted, they're lived.